Good morning everybody, Jean here from Jay's Media Solutions. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday morning. Today we'll be doing a beauty portrait retouch tutorial for you guys, nothing too complicated. Hope you guys will take from this video, and if you do and you like it, please subscribe and give us a like and maybe even a share. We are a company that does both video as well as photography for weddings, event corporates, even your matric farewells or your basic model portfolios. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Right guys, we are in Lightroom at the moment. As you can see, we took this photograph at Ibotse Estate, and as you can see, lovely location. We had a lovely model, and we also had a fantastic makeup artist. This was shot on my Fuji X-T3 with a 55-140. The settings are here on the top left. As you can see, it was done at 250 of the second, f2.8, ISO 80 at 57.7 millimeters. We had a Godox 8200 off on the side as an off-camera flash with an expandable beauty dish, which just helps fill in the shadows a bit more and just give it that natural feel. Guys, when it comes to beauty portraits, I cannot stress enough, make sure that you get a good makeup artist. They will save you a ton of time, guys, and I mean a ton. As you can see, Pure Sublime did a fantastic job here. If I go here, you can see there's not a lot of work that needs to be done out here. For me, the less time that you can spend on a photo is the more money that you make. You know what they say, time is money, and in this case it's 100% true. So yeah, let's get straight into the editing side of it. We're not going to touch any of these settings just yet. We're going to go straight to the bottom here where it says lens corrections, and we're going to enable profile corrections. What this does is it eliminates any distortion that there might be or any chromatic aberrations, which is that purple outline that you may see on some of your lenses, especially your wide lenses. I'm not saying it's going to get rid of everything, but it'll do a pretty good job on getting rid of most of it. If you guys would like a video on how to get rid of that properly, you let me know. I'll do another tutorial based on it, as there will be a lot more tutorials coming forth. Then we're going to come up here. Now I'm going to show you guys a little neat trick. If you look at your histogram here, that little white triangle is showing that something's clipping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my highlights, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to push Alt. As you can see, it makes the screen go black. Right now I can see that the dress is a bit blown out, as well as the earring. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring this slightly down to where the point is I can't see it anymore. So right now we should have detail in the dress no matter where we look. See, you can see the lovely detail in the dress here. I'm not going to do anything to the shadows. I feel that the image has enough uplifted shadows in it already, but I actually feel it's a little bit too flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my black share, and same thing, I'm going to push Alt down, and I'm going to bring this down to the point where I see it start clipping, so about there. So as you can see now, the image has slightly more contrast, nothing too crazy. And then I'm going to come to the white balance, and I'm just going to add a little bit of blues into it, nothing too absurd, just around about there. If you go to your keyboard and you push Y, you can see the changes that were done. As you can see, this is a much warmer feel versus this. Right now in Lightroom, all I'm doing is I'm balancing the image. When it comes to color grading, I will be doing that separately. I'm not going to do anything with the tonal curves or anything here, because like I said, I want to do a lot of the heavy work in Photoshop itself. However, I am going to come down to the HSL sliders, and I'm going to go to saturation, and I'm going to reduce the oranges slightly on her skin tone just to make it look a little bit more natural. Nothing crazy. Remember, we're trying to be subtle here. This is a beauty portrait retouch. This doesn't need to be anything over the top. In general, if I feel that the skin tones are a bit under, what I'll then do is I'll come to the orange slider here, and then you can drag them up or you can drag them down, and you can balance the skin tones out as how you feel. This is all to what you feel you want. So I generally just lift it up slightly, nothing too crazy. If you want anything else, like you'll see there's blues, you can definitely bring that down, and you can play around and eventually get a happy medium. Now when it comes to the detail tab, I like to sharpen here. So what I then do is I come to this little button here, and I'll click on the eye, And as you can see here on the left side, Fuji does a fantastic job of getting a photo in pinpoint focus, or pin sharp focus as you will. But however, I feel I can sharpen it ever so slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this slider up slightly, and that looks fantastic. That absolutely looks beautiful. But now the problem is when you do that, it sharpens the whole entire image, and I don't want the skin tones to be sharpened because I'll edit that separately in Photoshop. So here's a masking tool. What you do is you click on it and you push Alt once again. Now you'll see whatever's white here, that's going to be sharpened. But if you drag this, you start seeing that it starts masking it, which is fantastic. So right now, I don't really want the skin tones to be sharpened, so I drag it until the point where I'm happy. I think that's pretty good. So this is sharpening the lips, the eyes, some of the hair, and even the dress. So right now, if you look, I mean, it's nothing crazy, but I mean, that's a really good image off the bat without even looking at Photoshop. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to right click on this image because I don't want to do anything else here. I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to go edit in Photoshop. You'll see it'll load into Photoshop. There we go. So now the first thing I do when I get into Photoshop is I like to duplicate my background, just so I've always got a reference point with changes and stuff that I do. I personally don't like to work with hundreds and thousands of layers. If the image is a super complicated image and it needs to be done, I will do so, but right now this is a simple edit. I don't need to go over the top. So what I do is I just refer to this background layer for the changes. So the first thing that we do here is frequency separation. I like to work on the skin tones first, get them out of the way. The technique that we'll be using here, like I said, is frequency separation. Although a lot of photographers sort of get scared when they hear about it, but it's really not that complicated. I'll link a link in the description of the video from a guy by the name of Flern. He does some really great tutorials as well, but I'll be using his action, which I found is the best for frequency separation. I have already downloaded it. I already installed it. If you guys would like a tutorial on how to install actions onto your Photoshop, please let me know and I will do so. If you are looking for the action, all you're going to do is you're going to go Alt and you're going to push F9 and it will bring up the action screen, as you can see here. I will then scroll down until you see Flern, and I want to go to the 16-bit. Now what makes it cool is all you do is you push play and it does everything for you. Say continue. And right now the blur radius, you're going to look at the skin tones. Where's the skin? There it is. Let me zoom out a bit. You don't want this to be too blurry. You want it to be where it just covers the area, which, you know what, it actually looks good. And you push OK. So what this does is it's going to separate your textures from your, I call it the tonal values of the image. So you can edit the tones of the skin tones separately to what the texture is, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So you're going to click here. This gray layer, that's your texture layer. So anything regarding the actual like skin pores, or the, let's say there's pimples or blemishes or anything of the sort, you're going to use that tab to get rid of it. The tab below is what I like to refer to as the tonal layer. This is where you want to blend the skin tones into each other so it looks even and it looks nice. So we're going to start with this layer. So we're going to click on that. We're going to come up here, get our tone a lasso tool. We're going to click on that. So now what we do is we're going to circle the area that we want to blend in. So let's do like this highlight here. So we're going to do this. We don't want areas too big because you don't want to blend everything into each other that sort of contradicts each other. In other words, what this gets blended in over here, it won't look the same if it gets blended here. So do smaller sections at a time. But the first thing you want to do is you want to push Q, which will give you a mask, and you can see that this is quite a hard feather. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to start at about 25, and then I'm going to just do another one and just see what it looks like. As you can see, it blends it in a bit better, but I feel it can still go a bit more. So I'm going to go 10 more. Let's do 35. And now let's do this highlight here and let's see if this works. That is perfect. So now what this does is it's just going to blend the blurriness in evenly so it doesn't look too harsh. So now what you want to do is you want to go to your filter and you want to go blur and you want to go Gaussian blur. And you just want to uplift this with quite a bit of a blur just until it's like sort of blends in. So I'm thinking about a 10 should be fine. I'm actually going to go with about a 13.9. I think that's good. And then what you're going to do is you're literally just going to do this for everything. Filter, Gaussian blur. You literally just want to do this for all the areas that don't look good. So like I said, you're literally just going to do this. Don't worry about getting some of the hair, that's not a big thing. As like I said, you're affecting just the tonal values. You're not affecting the skin textures whatsoever. And you're just going to keep doing this. I'm doing it a little bit quickly because obviously I don't want to make this tutorial too long. Now we can even come down here. With the chest area, don't worry about going too big. Like I said, a lot of the chest area looks very similar, so it just makes it easier to do it this way. I'm also doing it quite intense for the simple reason is I want you guys on YouTube to actually see what is happening. Obviously I wouldn't go as hectic as it is now, but like I said, I just want you guys to see the changes that's happening. You know what, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that's perfect. So now if you want to see the changes, you literally just do that. You just toggle it off and on and you can see I did quite a bit of changes. Now we've got little blemishes like yeah, over here. There's a few areas that I want to touch up. So now I'll come to the texture layer. Now with the texture layer, you want to go to your spot healing brush, not spot healing brush, sorry, you want to go to your healing brush tool, and yeah, you're just going to sorry about that. Yeah, you're just going to literally take an area that's over here and you're going to sort of clone over it. So you're taking the nearby area and you're just going to sort of brush over it. So what I mean by that is you can push Alt, you're going to sample this area and you're just going to come down here and you're just going to remove it just like that. It's quite a simple technique. So you just go around and you see what you don't want. Like here's a blemish here, just sample the area and you just get rid of it. And you just do this until you feel, you know, you've covered everything. Obviously, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Also very great to remove hair. See, just like that. It's super easy. Now, if you see this, where you're removing it, but it's still making those dark spots, what that is, it's the tonal value of that skin tone, which is a lot darker than what the actual skin tone is. So what you'll have to do then is you'll have to manually come into the tonal value layer again, and you're literally just going to stamp in the area, and you're just going to wipe it down like this. So you're just matching the tonal values better. You could do this throughout the whole skin tone without using the lasso tool, but I feel that just takes a lot of time. So you do the first run with the lasso tool, and then you just come in and you can clean up all the other blemishes or pimples, tones with the healing brush tool afterwards. But as you can see, it was literally only those two that needed to be done. A lot of these are already done. There might be another one here. In general, a lot of it's just texture, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So you just keep doing this until you sort of sorted. Alright. So now that's, I would say, we're happy with frequency separation. Now, what I like to do is I just like to do shift click. Once I'm happy, just maybe go make a cup of coffee, come back and relook at it just to make sure you haven't missed anything. But if you're pretty confident that you've covered everything, then you literally just merge the layers. Like I said, I don't like to have 1,000 layers. Just for me, I personally don't like it. So right, now that we've done the frequency separation, I'm pretty sure we can see, if I zoom in now and I toggle this off and on, you can see the difference. That's quite a big difference, like massive. Right, now the next thing is, there's two ways we can do this. I personally, there's a program that a lot of photographers don't like. I personally feel it cuts a lot of time, and I do like it if you use it correctly. It will be Portrait Pro. You can buy it, but if you don't have Portrait Pro, I can show you how to manually dodge and burn. But I'll show you the two right now, and you can understand why it's a lot easier to use Portrait Pro than it is to use frequency, to just manually dodge and burn the image. So you're going to open up this program. It's going to try and recognize the face. You're going to click on the female. So as you see, the program does a pretty good job of recognizing everything. It does go out a bit, like here with the eyebrows. And then you just bring that out slightly. But overall, it did a good job. And now it gives you like a preset. Please guys, if you do use this program, you come to the top here and you say reset to original. You don't want to have anything to do with the skin work in this. You've already spent time frequency separating the skin work and editing it yourself. You don't need a program to now come in and sort it out for you. I also feel that the frequency separation gives you a much better result than what this program can, but I'll show you why I use this program. If you go to skin lighting, it gives you this tab. This is to sort of emulate another light source. So if I scroll this thing up and I do that, you can see by the cheekbones and stuff how it actually like sort of does the dodge and burn for you. Obviously I'm doing this quite intensely so you guys can see on YouTube. I wouldn't be doing it as much, but if you come to flip in before, you can see it's not a big difference, but it's a difference that's there. And you know what, that's all I use this program for, nothing else. It's just for that. Then I come out, I say return. You don't need it to. It does a lot of things. It does teeth whitening, which is great. It can clean the eyes, but to make the image still look realistic, it's very easy to go overboard in that program. I sort of clean the skin up and stuff. I've obviously done a very quick job. I could spend a lot more time on it, but right now I'm going to move on to the next part of the image. The next part would be with wedding dresses specifically. A lot of people don't see that blue gets picked up in the wedding dress. If you just look at it with your naked eye, it's kind of hard to see. But if I come here to your hue and saturation tab, and I click on this little dropper tool, and I click on the dress here, you'll see that it picks up blues. Now, you're probably asking yourself, but I still don't see blue. Well, I'll tell you what, if you up the saturation, you start seeing that there's blue all over this dress. So now, this tool, this hue and saturation tool, is the best to eliminate any blue in a wedding dress. And I'll show you what I mean by that right now. What I'm going to do is, I just up the saturation all the way that I can to see more or less where it is. Then I'm going to push Control I, which inverts it. Yeah, you can see on your layer mask, this is black, which means it hasn't implemented this this action or adjustment, should I say. Then I'm going to push B on the keyboard. This brings up my paintbrush. Now make sure your paintbrush is always the opposite color to this, your adjustment layer. So if it's black and you want to add in the adjustment layer, you need to make sure it's white. As you can see, behind here is white, so all you're going to do is you're going to push X, and you just going to make sure that your opacity is 100 and all this is sorted. Once that is all sorted, you can simply just come and paint, and as you see, it's literally adding the adjustment layer just to the selection, nothing else. But now you see I went over here. Oh well, how do I get rid of it? Easy. You push X again and you paint black over it. Just like so. Like that, I don't have to worry about adding in things that I don't want. Now I come to the adjustment layer again, blues, and now I'll just bring this down all the way. Not all the way, you don't want it to look super unnatural, but now you can see the big difference. Now the wedding dress that was supposed to be white is actually white now. Then I simply just close that down there, and like I said, you can actually see. So once I've done this change, I'm happy with this change. Once again, I am literally just going to merge these layers, and now you can actually see a big before and after. It's quite a massive difference. So with these type of images, I like to try and make the arm match the face. You can see because of Portrait Pro, it dodged and burned the face slightly, but it didn't do anything to the arms. So here you're going to have to sadly manually do it. So what I'll do is I'll come to curves, and I'll literally just grab a part here and I'll bring it down ever so slightly so I feel it's good. Once again, I'm going to push Control I so it doesn't take any effect, and then I'm going to use the paintbrush. But now there's various ways of doing this. You could set your brush's opacity to, let's say, 20 and brush it in slowly, or as me being impatient, I'll do 100 and then I'll reduce the layers opacity. So I'll come in here and I'll actually do it like so, and then just quickly take some of that out. I just wanted the edge of the arm, and then I literally will come to opacity and I'll bring that down. Just subtle, you don't want it too crazy. Then you're going to do the same thing with curves again, but now you're going to do the highlights. You're going to grab the highlight here. Oof, you don't want it too bright, just enough. Do that, and then just paint on the whites on the highlight area. And then I'm literally just going to reduce it here. It's very subtle, like extremely subtle. I'm just trying to, there, let's do that for now. Then you can even come to the collarbone here, you know, just bring that up. So it's, yeah, there we go. Nothing too crazy, nothing too over the top, but it's just makes it a little bit more simple. So what we've done now is we've used Lightroom, we've done the basic corrections, we've then taken it into Photoshop to do the frequency separation, we've done the skin tones and the skin textures. Then we use a program called Portrait Pro to dodge and burn the face. If you don't have Portrait Pro, you dodge and burn the way I did with the arms. So what I mean by that is, if you come here for argument's sake, the easiest way to do it is you're going to go curves, you're going to come here and you're going to bring this down until you're happy. Once you're happy, like I said, Control I, push B to get your brush up, make sure it's white, and then just paint on it, and you'll see where this is. That is where you're going to be dodging. And then you do the same thing again. To come curves, you come up here, use white, you bring it up like so, you push Control R, push B, and then you paint the scene again. And all that does is that literally that's how you would dodge and burn. Obviously you would have to do the cheekbones, and you technically would have to like sort of contour the model. But obviously, like I said, this is just for demonstration purposes. We'll get rid of that with backspace. When you work with a good makeup artist, like I said, the work that you have to do is very minimal. I didn't have to do a lot here. There's some cases where if the model's makeup is pretty flat, you will have to then go in and manually contour the model and make sure that, you know, you've added definition to her face. But yeah, I don't have to do a lot of that stuff. So the next thing I would have to do is, how do we grade this video? Grade this photo. I think overall it's looking good. I will then go to levels once again. Bring the black here. I want to bring it down slightly. Sorry, it's the top one. So you get this, you bring it out slightly, just so you got a little bit more contrast to the image. I prefer the levels, doing it this with the levels, because I feel I have a little bit more control over the highlights and the shadows. So if I take this, you can see it like brings it down, and if I take this side, it makes it brighter. But right now I feel that the highlights are perfect. I don't need to mess around with the highlights. I just felt that the blacks needed to come down a bit. So as you can see, I can make it super dark, or I can make it what it was. But right now, if I hold Alt, I can see I'm not getting too crazy with my adjustments. So if you have a monitor that's not really calibrated, which I highly recommend that you do have a monitor that's calibrated, but if you don't have a monitor that's calibrated, you can use this method to sort of know what you're going to get, because with this, it's a program that sort of shows you the highlights from the shadows, and if it says it's clipping, it's clipping, no matter how calibrated you want it is. If it is clipping, it will be clipping on other people's monitors at some point. So rather have it to the point where it's in between. You've got a happy medium. So right now I'm happy with this. I'm gonna just do that, merge layers. So in terms of color grading, there's a few things you can do. I personally use a plugin called, it's not a plugin, it's an extension. It's called Infinite Color. This is a fantastic program, fantastic. This eliminates any human error or I don't know how to sort of explain this, but this program, it sort of takes all these different presets that people have used over the years and puts it there for you, and then you can go in and customize it to how you want. So it's not just a preset, guys. If you use presets and you don't change them and you just use them for what they are, I suggest that you maybe start learning how to change your presets up so you can develop your own style and not work off someone else's. So for argument's sake, if I click here, you'll see immediately this is something that I like. But now you see it's a bit red and it's not so lacquer. So now there's one or two things that we can do. you see here, it gives you all these different adjustment layers. It gives you curves, and they're all subtle. You see here's the color balance, which makes it the red tone. Then you got this one, which is the selective color, the gradient, and then you even got the color lookup table. Now, I like this look, but I don't like it on his skin tones. So how do I get it off his skin tones? Quite simple actually. I'm going to come onto this folder, and I'm going to click on this adjustment tool here, this adjustment layer here. Once again, push up your B for your brush, and I literally start painting over his skin and her hair, because I don't want any of this to be affected by it. None of this must be taken into consideration. I want this all to be your natural skin tone. Okay, then I'm going to come in here. That's all I'm going to do, is just make sure it's nice and neat. Just make sure you do it nice and thorough, so it doesn't overlap and it doesn't look unnatural. So right now you have a result of just the background being changed. Which I think is fantastic. I personally am happy with this image. I wouldn't touch anything else. Obviously, like I said, I could clean this image up a lot more. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. There's a bit of red here, which I think we should actually remove. So what we'll do then is we're going to merge these layers, and then we will come up here and we will look for hue and saturation, and we'll click on here. It'll give us the magenta, so if I up it you can see. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring that down just to match her scalp a little bit, and I'm going to change it up like so. So right now you can see it's a very subtle change, but it's there. And then once again, I'm going to push Control I, because I don't want everything to be in the same thing. I don't want the whole image to be affected by this change. So then I push B again, change it to my white layer, and I'm just going to paint over this section, just so it, you know, gets taken up. Now, if you push this, you can see it's a very subtle change, but it's there. There's a little piece of hair here. I think we should move on to that next. There's a piece of hair that's here, and it looks like she's growing a bit of a tail. So we need to remove this hair. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. I personally would use the spot healing tool, but if I do it just like this, you can see even though it does a good job, it's not great. I personally don't like it. So how else could we? So how else could we remove this without it affecting it too much? Well, quite simple. You're gonna come up to here where it says mode. You're gonna go normal. Now this is lighter than the back, so what I want to do is I want to darken it. So I'm going to click on darken, and now when I brush over it, you'll see it literally only darkens it. It doesn't do anything else. And as you can see, that was quite a big change. So right now that's what we have at the moment, which I think is pretty cool. If you guys want to take it maybe one more step further and you want to get a bit of a matte fill, I do like a lot of matte fills in my images. I'll then come here, I'll make this slightly darker, but then I'll come to the bottom piece here and I'll just drag this up. And I get that slight matte fill on my image. Obviously you don't want it too hectic. And yeah, I think that just polishes the image off completely. If you do want to like add a bit of blues to the shadows, you can. But once again, this is messing up with the grade that I already had. There's no point. So as you can see, that matte fill just gives it a nice overall finish. So now that we've done this image, let's just recap. So we've done the Lightroom basic adjustments, we've moved into Photoshop, we've done the frequency separation on both the texture layer as well as the tonal layer. We've also then moved on to started to color correct it. We reduced the blue out of the dress. We've done quite a bit of different things to this image that I feel that, you know what, do we need to do anything more? As an editor, you need to sort of decide when to stop, because like I said, you guys could go on, any editor that you ask can go on for hours on the image. You just got to sort of know when enough is enough, because you also don't want to overdo the image. I mean, I could come now, I could add another grade onto his skin tones, but I don't feel like I should. I feel those skin tones are perfect the way they are. I personally feel that, like I said, this image is perfect, well, close to perfect. What I then want to do is I'm going to put my logo into this. So I've had a lot of people say, how do you put a logo onto an image without it being too big or too distracting? And a lot of people have, that I see, do it. It's a common mistake. You want your watermark on the image, but you don't want it to take away from the image. And I'll show you how I do my logos that are very subtle. They're there, but they're not there. That's the key. If people want to see who the image was taken by and they look for it, they'll find it. But if they're not looking for it, it won't distract them. So what I'll do is I'll come to my logo, which I have here. I'm going to push V, and I'm going to just simply drag it to my image here. So now you see, here's my logo. So now you'll get photographers that will put it here, for argument's sake. And now, when I look at this image, I don't see an image, I see a logo. My eyes go straight to the logo. So when you add a watermark, make sure that it's very subtle, guys. Like, I can't stress this enough. I generally bring it here to the bottom right corner. I will then make it much smaller. And then I'll just move it into its correct position. And then I'll make it about 50%. Every image will be different. Some images will be 50, some images will be 70. It just depends on how busy your image is. Does it have a lot of poles in the background? Does it have a lot of texture in the background? Then you'll decide whether the logo needs to be bright or if it needs to be duller. Right now the image is not so busy. I want all the focus to be on this model itself. I don't want to have the logo obstruct this image whatsoever. So that's how you would put the logo in. Now coming to the final stages, I get asked, how do you save your images? I will Control Alt Shift S once I'm happy with my image. You'll get brought up with a variety of different options here. Okay, and I don't know why Photoshop has reset everything, but I'm glad it has, because then I can show you how I would set my save for web up from scratch. You want to go to JPEG. Okay, it'll take some time to readjust this. Now it says maximum quality 100. So what I want to then do is, if you're going to put this onto Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, quality, make it 100%, so maximum quality. However, if you're going to use it for your website, you don't need to have such a high quality, because the bigger your image for your website, the longer it's going to take to load. So I like to work on anything from 100 kilobits to maximum 250, just so those websites can load quicker. Right now, I'm going to leave it at JPEG. Maximum is fine. Optimized is fine. Here's a very, very big thing. This internet standard RGB. A lot of guys will have this thing set to monitor. What this does is it takes your monitor settings. So if your monitor is super bright, it'll take that and it'll export it as to how your monitor is. That way, on your export, you'll have things like, oh, on my monitor it looks great, but when you upload it to Facebook and you look on your phone, oh, now it's suddenly very yellow and it's pink and it's all these other colors that you didn't even see when you were editing it. My biggest thing is put it onto the internet standard RGB. It will eliminate this problem. You will never have that problem again if your monitor has been calibrated, because what happens is when your monitor gets calibrated, it gets calibrated to what the internet standard RGB is, so everything looks the same. I'll take this image, I'll put it on my phone, and it'll look the same as it does on my machine. This you can leave here, and then here I would go long edge. I always export my images with long edge to 2048. So what this does is it literally just makes the image a bit smaller. As you can see, it's only 1 meg there at the bottom side, which is fine for Facebook or any other platform that you want to be on. And then other than that, you are sorted. You're going to click save. You're going to find the destination that you want to save it to. So for instance, I'm just going to put in documents. No. I'm going to put it here under picture, or let's just put it straight to where it's supposed to be, which will be pictures, 29 together, and then going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to say going to name it tutorial. And then I'm gonna you can name it like JDS Media Solutions Beauty Portrait, which I'll do here. And then you just click save. You don't have to name it anything. If you're going to put it onto your website, I suggest naming everything with your company name, and then whatever you want to label afterwards. So we saved our image. We are sorted. I think that's everything that we can do towards this image. Thank you guys for watching. I know I mumbled a lot. I know I was a little bit all over the place. As these tutorials get, the more tutorials I do, the better it will get eventually. Right now, like I said, it's just a lot of it's a big learning curve for me. I do appreciate that if you've made it through to the end of this tutorial. If you need me to go back and rectify anything, or if you need me to specify anything else in more detail, I'll be happy to do tutorials on for say frequency separation, or just color grading or things like that. This was just an overall beauty retouch tutorial. I will be doing more. Just let me know in the comment section what more you would like to see, and we'll take it from there. Guys, thanks so much once again. If you did like this video and it did help you, please like, please subscribe, and even please give a share on your Facebook or your Instagram. Also, if you guys are in Joburg, South Africa, and you're looking for a good makeup artist, please speak to Pure Sublime. They are very, very good at what they do, and they will save you a ton of time. Until next time, guys, have a good one.